Hi there, my name is Rachel. I'm a chef and owner. I'm from Bangor, Maine, and my restaurant is Utopia. And like Utopia, today we're gonna focus on plant-based, nutrient-dense food, and for those everyday meals, and then also for moms to be like myself, and everything we get from a plant. So the big focus like Utopia is if you eat good, you feel good, you look good, and everyone wants to feel good. So today we're going to be making a tomato basil hummus, followed by a farro salad, and then we're gonna be doing a cauliflower steak. So now we're gonna make the tomato basil hummus. I already boiled the chickpeas and the sun-dried tomatoes. I saved a sun-dried tomato so you can see the difference here. It's important to boil these if you're gonna make a tomato basil hummus or anything tomato basil that's gonna be pureed. Just allows you to get this more tender, nice and soft, these are delicious on their own, but to get that rich, creamy texture that everyone wants in hummus, you're gonna want to boil these. The chickpeas, again, these are canned. You can use them right out of a can if you want, but they're not gonna be as tender as you would if you boil them like I did for about 15-20 minutes. And it also gets these little peels that come on the chickpeas to come off really easily. So you can leave them on if you want, if you're in a hurry, just eating at home. But to make it a more creamy, smooth texture, you're gonna wanna take as many of these off as you can. And so now we're gonna put these through the food processor, and we're going to add a few other items after, but we're gonna get most of this blended up before we add other ingredients, just to be a little easier on the food processor to make sure we don't have any big chunks of chickpeas or tomato. All right, so our chickpeas and tomatoes are already pureed in the food processor. Now we're gonna add some fresh basil. You can either get fresh basil at your grocery store, or obviously if you have a garden, that'd be great. If you can't find fresh basil, you can always use some already pureed basil, which I think almost every grocery store has this available. So whatever is easier for you. I prefer to use the fresh basil, but for today, just because you know, we're gonna appease to the masses, we're gonna use a little bit of both. Hummus is one of those things that you're gonna wanna be very generous with salt. You can always add salt, you can't take away, but I find that when I make hummus, I usually put a good amount of salt. It looks kind of like a lot, but you don't eat it by the bowlful, you eat it with other items like cucumbers, pita, and stuff like that. I'm gonna add some paprika, smoked paprika, gives it a nice little flavor, a little smoked cumin, a pinch of pepper, of black pepper, and a little bit of white pepper. If you haven't used white pepper, it is it's a little stronger than a black pepper, and overall kind of gives it like a surprise when people are eating it. They're like, what's that flavor? It's white pepper usually. And we're gonna also add some lemon zest. And then we're gonna add the juice of the lemon. I already zested it, obviously. We put the lemon zest in, and we're gonna do about a half a lemon. And you can always add more. I like my hummus pretty lemony in itself. Oops, I'm squirting away. Also, if you're like myself, I do compost everything, which is great for anything at home. You can either save your scraps for compost. Citrus is great to put outside around your patio or deck all crumbled up, as it does insect repellent, which is great. And then your scraps for like onions, any vegetable scrap you can save and put it in your freezer, and then make a veggie stock on a day that you want to make soup. We're gonna put a little bit of fresh garlic in here that I already minced up with my food processor. And then we're gonna also add some tahini. Tahini is pureed sesame seeds. You wanna be really careful about the type of tahini you use, as sometimes certain brands can be pretty bitter, and no one wants that. All right, so we added our spices. Those are all pureed in there, and our tahini. The last step is to add some ice water. You could add ice cubes. Ice water is just fine. It just allows it to get a little more air in there, so it's nice and fluffy. So you're just gonna add it until the texture that you want. Some people like their hummus really thin, as they're gonna put it, you know, as like a garnish on a plate, or nice and thick for dipping. But you're gonna need probably, I'd say like a half cup to a cup, depending on how big your batch is. So I already tried the hummus. It is absolutely delicious as always. We're gonna just plate it a little bit. We're gonna save some of this for our cauliflower steak. There's plenty though. Hummus is one of those things that you can keep in the fridge, easy grab, full of protein, fiber, iron, folate, which is very important for moms to be and whatnot, and overall everyone. So we're just put a little bit in the center here. I had already cut up some cucumbers, but you can use whatever vegetable you'd like. And then I have some pita that you can either serve warm on the side and just scoop with it, or you can just cut them into little triangles like I did myself. And then put a little lemon zest on the top, just because, you know, who doesn't like it, and it's also pretty. And then probably just put, actually we'll do, and put a basil leaf on here, just for garnish. A little more zest. All right, and then you have a nice little hummus snack. All right, so we're gonna work on our cauliflower steak next. When you go to the grocery store, you're gonna wanna make sure you pick out a nice big cauliflower. If you don't have large cauliflower heads, which happens sometimes during seasonalities, you can get like a small cauliflower and just use half. It doesn't have to look exactly like a steak cut like we're gonna do today. The whole point is just to have cauliflower that stays together and you eat it kind of as the main dish, as the protein. So when you're cutting your cauliflower steak, the most important part when you're cutting it is to make sure you don't cut the stem. This is what holds everything together. We're gonna cut it off a little bit when we put it on the pan, but to start out, you're gonna wanna make sure that you leave all this intact for the most part, just to ensure that you don't crumble your cauliflower right off. And then the cauliflower that falls off just like so, nice little flowerets, we're gonna put on the side, and you can save them for dipping raw into your hummus, or eat it with any other dip that you have at home, or you can roast them and serve it as a side dish for any meal. But you're gonna wanna get this about an inch or so thick, and you can kind of see that this is the thickness you're gonna want. The stem here, we're gonna cut a little bit of that off and take the leaves off. But you can leave the leaves on, they are edible of course, but you know, I just take it off. And again, I save this for anything like a veggie stock or compost. And over here I have my sprayed bacon sheet. You can drizzle it with olive oil, spray it. You just wanna put something light on there really quick. And we're gonna put our cauliflower steak. We're gonna do 2 cauliflower steaks. And again, we'll cut off a little bit of the stem so it stays intact. And a great little snack here. I'm gonna clean up my board. And for seasoning, we don't have to do a lot for seasonings on these steaks, as we're gonna finish it off with a spicy roasted tahini sauce. That's really what we're gonna focus on for flavor, but a little bit of salt. You don't even have to put salt if you don't like. I'm gonna put a little pepper, a little cumin, and a little paprika. And we're gonna bake these for about 15 minutes on one side, then we're gonna take them out, flip it, and we're gonna bake it for about 10 minutes, and then we're gonna take it out one more time, and then put our sauce on it and finish it for about just a few minutes so the sauce adheres to the cauliflower. All right, so now we're gonna make the sauce for our cauliflower steak. This roasted for about 15 minutes on one side. We flipped it, we roasted it on 400 degrees for about 10 minutes. So it has a nice little char on top for texture. All right, so we have tahini. Wanna make sure we use a brand that we enjoy, that's not bitter. You only need a little bit because we're only doing 2 cauliflower steaks. And then next you're gonna wanna add your favorite spicy sauce. At my restaurant, I do like my own habanero paste, but if you like it spicy, use whatever you want. If you don't like spicy, then just omit it, and you could even put like some mustard in there and whatnot. You just wanna have a sauce that kind of thins out the tahini, but doesn't make it watered down and adds flavor. All right, and then now I'm gonna add organic agave, just to give it a little sweetness. Agave is nice and thick. You could use honey if you'd like. Honey is just obviously not vegan, but to keep it vegan, I use organic agave. So we're just gonna wanna whisk this together until it kind of all nice and blended so we don't have any streaks and whatnot. Again, you can make it as spicy as you'd like or as mild as you like. I have guests at my restaurant, because I do make cauliflower steak there, that want it like fiery hot with Fresno and habanero, and then other guests that arrive, you know, I know them, they have an open kitchen, and I'm like, oh, they'll make this a little mild, and I'll just add mustard and some warm baking spices even. So we're just gonna drizzle this across the top, kind of paint it, as you can see. And it doesn't need to go in the oven very long, as the cauliflower is basically done, but you're gonna wanna get it kind of all over. It's gonna melt down, and it's really gonna stick to the cauliflower, and the tahini is gonna get a little bit of texture as it cooks, and it's just gonna have that crispy but also soft, savory, spicy, sweet, and overall kind of like an umami taste. Quite delicious. So I'm gonna put this in the oven for about 4 or 5 minutes, and then we're gonna finish it off. I have my pan preheating. We're gonna make wilted spinach for our cauliflower steak. Spinach obviously is nutrient dense. It's full of protein, calcium, iron, fiber, all the important things. So definitely wanna get your spinach in, as you know, Popeye would. And so this is all ready to go. I'm going to put a little bit of oil on here. You don't need a lot, because there's a lot of moisture in spinach. We're just gonna add some shallots that I had already diced up in here. Shallots are kind of like it's a mild onion. You know, you could use red onion or white onion if you'd like, but shallots are really gonna be where you wanna go, because it's gonna it's not gonna overpower. And we're just gonna add a little bit of garlic. And we're gonna let those warm together. Again, this is on like a medium heat. We don't wanna char it or burn it. We're just gonna get them warmed up, because then we're gonna add the spinach and some water and steam it, and they'll be nice and tender. All right, so our shallots and garlic, they kind of hung out together. They're perfect, they're not burnt or anything like that. Again, shallots and garlic burn really easily, so you wanna make sure you never leave garlic or shallots on a stove and walk away, because it can burn just like that, then you have to start over. But I'm going to season this with a little bit of salt. The salt will make things sweat, so we get a little more moisture out of the shallots and the garlic. And then I'm gonna put a little black pepper, and now I'm gonna add my spinach. And I'm just gonna give this a little bit of a stir, kind of get it in there. And this looks kind of like a lot of spinach, but it's gonna go down right pretty small. We're gonna add just a little bit of water for some steam. And we're gonna cover this for just a few minutes, probably like 1.5 minutes, and it'll be all done. All right, so our cauliflower steak is just about done in the oven. We're gonna garnish it with some dates. You wanna make sure that your dates are nice and soft. If you have dates that you found in your pantry that have been there for a long time, you don't throw them away. You can make them soft again. You can soak them in water for a while, or you can put them in a cup of water and microwave it for a minute or two, or you can add them to boiling water and it will rehydrate them. They'll get nice and tender. So if you ever have dried fruit that gets hard easily, if you didn't store it correctly, you can always just put them in some warm water, leave it for a minute, and they'll get nice and soft again. So if you haven't seen a date before, but these are wonderful little soft dates, you're gonna cut them. And when you're cutting, you always want to make sure that your knuckles are before your fingers. So when you're cutting, knuckles touching your knife, and then you can just go, and then you won't lose a fingertip. All right, so we're gonna take your cauliflower steak out. So our cauliflower steak is all done, so it has that nice little crisp to it. The tahini has really adhered to the cauliflower, and we're ready to plate. The hummus that we made earlier, it's been sitting all wonderful. We're gonna just put a little bit on a plate. You can put it on the side, or you can be creative and plate it however you want. I'm just gonna do a little strip. Doesn't have to be a lot, you can always add more. And then our spinach is all done. And I'm going to just take a little, actually I'll bring my plate over here. We're gonna just take a little bit of spinach and put that right next to our hummus. Again, this is a super vitamin rich, iron, vitamin B, potassium, vitamin C, protein, fiber, all those important things. And then we're gonna take one of our cauliflower steaks. Actually, I'm gonna take this one. I'm gonna put that right in the center. And we're gonna garnish with some of these soft dates. And I'm gonna put a little pistachio on top, just for a little extra crunch. It's pretty, and then it gets that just another level of flavor. And then I'm going to grab a little bit of parsley, put that right on top, and then you have a wonderful, rich antioxidants, immune system support, all the good things, cauliflower steak. And then next we're gonna be doing our farro salad. All right, so now we're going to be making our farro salad. Farro is an ancient grain. This is a pearled farro. So this only takes about 15 minutes to boil. You're gonna boil it just like you do pasta. So get your pot of water rolling, add this, 15 minutes, drain, rinse, and then leave it in the fridge to cool for a salad. If not, you can use this as a side dish and saute it with some onions or shallots and fresh herbs, and it's a wonderful base to any protein or protein alternative. So the farro salad, we use a lot of fresh herbs for this. So we're going to be taking our leaves off for our salad, but we're gonna save the stems besides the mint because the mint stem's kind of bitter. But we're gonna be using parsley, which I already de-stemmed these over here, but just to show you, we're gonna de-stem it. And we're going to save these because we're gonna put this in our dressing. And for our dressing, we're gonna be using the stems of our fresh herbs, some mustard. You can use, again, any kind of mustard. Dijon mustard is gonna be kind of our binder. It helps us emulsify our dressing. So you can get a rich, creamy dressing without any dairy and keep it vegan. All right, so we're gonna get some things into the food processor. If you don't have a food processor, you can use a blender, or you could whisk. You could just whisk quickly, but if you have a food processor or blender, you're gonna get that creamy texture without all that extra beating. So I'm just gonna do a couple spoonfuls. You don't need to measure. Cooking is more go with how you feel. Recipes are kind of guidelines. Make it your own, make it easy. Don't overthink it or make it stressful. So we just put some mustard. I'm gonna put a little bit of sugar in here just to kind of balance out because we're gonna do a lot of fresh herbs, and sometimes fresh herbs can be a little bitter. And we're gonna be doing some dried oregano. And then we're going to add some fresh fresh herbs. So I have some basil, parsley stems, and then I'm gonna add a couple sprigs of fresh mint. And maybe another mint here. All right. And then I'm gonna pulse this for a couple seconds, and then we're gonna add the rest of our ingredients. So to make sure that it stays nice and creamy, we're going to want to add our vinegar first and then our oil after. And I use apple cider vinegar, and you want to use the mother apple cider. It will say it right on there on the container, as apple cider vinegar has all kinds of great probiotics and prebiotics. It really helps your immune system. It also can help with heartburn and settling your stomach, which is important for everyone. And then also, again, one of those, if you're a mom-to-be, you know all about that. Okay. All right, so we have everything all blended, ready to go. I have my oil, and I'm gonna turn this on, and we're gonna add it slowly. So don't just pour it in. This processor, like most food processors, have little holes in the attachment, which allow it to go slow. But if you don't, you just wanna go in slowly. That way it really gets the air in there, and that's how you get your creamy dressing. Except for it's not attached right. Okay, so our dressing is all done. You're gonna wanna take that out and put this in a container that's easy to pour. As you can see, it is nice and creamy. This means that when you put it in the refrigerator, the oil isn't going to separate. It's gonna stay nice and together like you would if you bought the dressing at a grocery store, but those are full of, you know, chemicals and binders or other things that none of us want to actually eat, right? All right, so for our farro salad, I already have farro in a bowl that I took from over here. We're gonna put some diced red onions in here. If you don't like onions, just don't add any. Pretty simple. We're gonna also add some fresh oranges. I just peeled them and cut them into small pieces. If you don't like orange, you could always use grapefruit. That's always wonderful. Mandarin oranges or even canned mandarin oranges are actually really wonderful on a salad. So we also have some dried cherries. Again, these are nice and soft. Cherries are great, full of magnesium and folate, vitamin C, and all kinds of other fun antioxidants that are very important for everyone to have. And then some almonds. These almonds are slivered. They're toasted. You're gonna toast them in a pan until they smell nutty, or you can put them in the oven for 5 or so minutes and just until they get like a nice little brown so they crunch. I already took some fresh basil and mint and minced that up. So we're gonna add all of that in there. And you can use whatever herbs you'd like. You really can't go wrong. These were just lovely mint leaves. Sometimes it's hard to find them at the grocery store, so if you can't find them, there's no worry in that. Just use another fresh herb. We have parsley. I missed the stem on this one, but just take the stem off. And you don't have to take the stems down to the tiniest part. You can if you want, but really you're gonna cut it up. No one's gonna notice. Just a rough little chop. You can also use cilantro if you have that at home. Some people don't like cilantro because, oops, they think that it tastes like soap. But luckily we don't have that. So just fine chopped. So we have the fresh mint, basil, mint, onions, cherries, and then now we're gonna add some spinach. You can cut the spinach up if you like, but I like to leave them kind of nice and whole. That way, you know, get a nice bite. You don't feel like you're just eating minced vegetables and baby food texture or anything like that. So now that we have this, we're just gonna add our dressing. You can add as much as you'd like. Farro really absorbs dressing. If you're gonna make this ahead of time and put it in the fridge, put like just a little bit of dressing, as the farro will absorb all of it and you'll have to add more. So just put a little bit and then add more right before you serve. That way you're not just having a bunch of oil. That's not good for anyone. And just give it a quick stir. And you can add any veggies that you want to this. I actually roasted off some butternut squash. You can either get a whole squash, peel it and roast it yourself, or you can buy peeled and quartered squash from your store. Or if you don't like squash, you can use sweet potato or carrots. I choose squash because there's less starch and overall carbs and sugar. It's easier on your stomach and just has a nice flavor, but sweet potato can just be a little overwhelming. And they hold their form better than a roasted sweet potato. So we're gonna let this sit for a minute and we're gonna come back after it kind of marries, give it a quick stir, and then we're gonna plate it. Our farro salad is all done. It sat for a few minutes, give it a quick stir. Again, this salad is nutrient dense. It is full of spinach, ancient farro grains, squash, onions, dried cherries, fresh herbs. It's full of iron, magnesium, vitamin B, C, D, everything that you really need to keep you energized and not feel heavy. You can serve this as a side dish, or you can use this as an entree as it is, or you can use it with a poached salmon on top, or a roasted tofu, any type of protein that you'd like to add to it if you would like to, but if not, this is fine just either way it is. It is a very filling dish, but you don't feel gross after, even though you're very full. It's one of those things that you can eat a lot of, but it is so good for you that you feel wonderful after and satisfied. Thanks for watching today. I am your host, Rachel. If you enjoyed all of our plant-based meals or any meal in general, you can follow us on Instagram at Utopia Bangor or find us on our website, utopiabangor.com. I am based in Maine, so if you ever make it up there, we'd love to have you to enjoy one of our plant-based meals. We do have hummus like we made today, and we also have our wonderful farro salad and our cauliflower steak. Thank you.